I'm Rachel Evans. Thanks for joining me again. I hope you're okay. I want to talk about something a little bit different this time. And it's really one of the things that differentiates a manager from a leader. And what we're talking about is the idea of delegation. Now, everybody talks about delegation, but some people are actually not that good at it. No, I'm actually going to say that they're bad at it. And there's actually a very simple way that we can identify what we should and what we shouldn't delegate. Effective delegation at the end of the day is what makes the difference between a good manager and a good leader. So what we're talking about is the what, the who, and the when. So what do we mean by the what, the who, the when? So the first thing we want to look at is the what. The what is the task itself. So what is it we're trying to delegate? How do we decide what it is we're going to delegate? And one of the first things we can look at is the value of the task itself versus the value of your own time. If you'd be more efficient handing the task away because you've got higher priority tasks, that's the first of the ticks on the what's. The second aspect that you might need to consider in terms of what you're trying to delegate is the need for judgment or authority. So, what level of decision making is required? Are you required to oversee it? Are you the only person that can make the decision, or can somebody else do that for you and with you? If you've so far, if you can identify a task that's better assigned from a value point of view, and or is worth delegating in terms of the fact that it doesn't need your input or authority, your judgment, we're on the right track. The third thing I want to look at is the risk of misexecution. So if you get it wrong, if the task goes wrong when you delegate it, is it critical? If it's hypercritical, that's something you wouldn't delegate. If it's something that's got an easy remediation, or at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, then again, that's a good task that we can look at delegating away. So our what is value, the need for judgment or authority, and the risk of misexecution. So the next thing, so let's say we've identified that we want to delegate and we've identified tasks that we can delegate away. The next thing I want us to look at is who are we going to give it to? Well, what we're going to look at is first of all, capability. So who has the experience, the knowledge, and the network, the connections, etc., in order to handle this task? So if they've got the right capability, they're a good choice. Now, it may be that this is a stretch activity, so we can develop people into this, but we should look at capability. We also need to consider capacity. So there's no point just delegating something away to somebody who's already hyper busy. If they're hyper busy, we're just going to add to their stress, and we're going to potentially get a negative result. So let's consider their capacity as well. So if we've got somebody that's got the capability or can develop the capability and they've got the capacity, we're on the right track. And then obviously growth is really, really important as well, because when we delegate, what we want to see is a growing organization. It's about us growing as leaders, but it's also about our team. So in terms of who we're going to delegate to, it's about their capability, their capacity, and the opportunity. Now, the final thing I want to look at is when. So when should we delegate? Well, it's about urgency. If you don't have the capacity, for example, but this is an urgent task, then this is something that obviously would rise in the opportunities to delegate. If it's of low urgency, it may be something you want to fit in. But let's look at the urgency. We then want to look at the task and say, okay, what's the learning curve around this if this is a new task? And that relates in part to capacity again, in terms of the who. So, have you got the capacity to do this if this is something new? If this is something you're going to to delegate away, have they got the capacity to grow? Remember, this is also about growth opportunity. And then the final thing we want to look at in terms of when we're going to delegate is around dependencies. Are there any critical dependencies that are reliant upon this task being done within a certain period of time? It may not be urgent yet, but if we think everything has a roll on or a knock on effect, we have to consider those dependencies. So, just to recap, when we're trying to decide what we're going to delegate, we want to consider what we're delegating, who we're delegating it to, and when we should delegate this. If we can answer these in the positive, we should be delegating away. Remember, good delegation is the difference between management and leadership. What I'm here today and throughout all of these talks that I give is to help people move from management towards leadership. Well, I hope you found that useful. It was a very quick message. If you've got any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. info@newedge.com or it's me at justrachel.com. Feel free to reach out. I'm here to help.